And if our elected officials aren't advocating for peace or cooling off period, they're advocating for vengeance, and that cycle of violence will always continue until we step out of it and create peace and lasting peaceful solution.
What up? Welcome back, everybody, to This Week in White Supremacy. Woo! I am your co-founder and CEO of One Hood Media, Jasiri X, and to my immediate right,
it's a miracle.
It's your girl, Miracle, aka Big Blessing with a Big Blessing.
Yes, into the mic, Miracle. Yes.
What's poppin'?
So Miracle, very, very colorful today. I like those,
Yes. First day, well, the first show of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So
okay. Respect. Yeah. I wish, if we only had a group chat where we could have all possibly worn pink and represented
we have a whole
Cancer Month. Okay, we have a whole month. We do have a whole month. All right, so maybe we can rotate, right? Everybody wears pink a different day. Yes. My brother?
It's your boy, Sherwood, and last Never Like Supremacy. Next Level Shaman.
Fresh off your Next Level Legend performance, right?
Yes. You know what I'm saying?
Roger Humphreys.
Hell yeah. That was beautiful. That was the time.
Very cool. Very cool. And sir.
Hacksaw Him Duggan. Him Jong Il. Timothy McVeigh.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
No, sir.
Oh my God.
And then put a bomb drop. Timothy McVeigh. No, sir.
Too soon.
No,
sir.
It was like 1995. It was
Timothy McVeigh. No, sir, brother. We reject that.
Doesn't mean it's not him.
And
doesn't mean I'm not him.
Is that because your Canadian brethren dropped your theme album
for the dogs?
Your life theme. You know what I'm saying?
It's interesting because there's a lot of records on that really hit home, man.
Really?
There's a couple. Tried Our Best definitely was something that
light skin energy, right? You felt it in your bones, right?
I mean, I'll tell you what.
He's like right on
relationship
time.
raps, man. Yeah, right on time.
For all
schedule, always on time.
For all light skinned Canadians, let's get it, right?
Man.
So
I would like to just provide some context. I'm from Toronto. Drake's from Canada.
Oh, okay. Oh,
there's a difference.
Oh, okay.
Wait, what?
What's the difference?
Think about it.
I don't think you
thought about
invented the 6, brother. That was him.
But we didn't call it that when I was growing up.
He said it was the 5 till he came along and made it the 6.
Man, yeah, I guess. I don't know. But
yes, but
speaking of
that, there's no real transition. But we
there's no. Yeah, I was gonna say something. Yes. It would have been in poor taste.
I mean, when you started in poor taste, I mean, you might. Hopefully, you don't continue to go in poor taste. But we are. We approach this with humor, laughter. We try to look at. White supremacy as horrible as it can be,
right?
And we try to make light of things, but sometimes things happen in the world that we cannot make light of. Mm-hmm. And so we definitely felt like we did, not necessarily we had a responsibility, but we wanted to have a conversation around what's happening right now in Israel and Palestine, where war is happening. To not talk about that would be weird, right? We're not acknowledging what's happening. And I believe that there are two different conversations about this subject, right? Particularly what recently just happened. I think there's a human conversation, and then there's a conversation about groups and the state, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think I want to start with the human conversation, because innocent humans lost their lives. Mm-hmm. Innocent Israelis and Palestinians lost their lives, who were not actively participating in any of the you had people at a music festival. Mm-hmm. Some people were kidnapped, some people were raped, some people were harmed in that manner. So we definitely want to say that the innocent loss of life is, to me, there's no justification in that. Mm-hmm. That should just get condemned outright. And I say that to say So just to kind of take it back a little bit, right? We are for Black Americans.
Yes.
We're not, scholars of this subject. We know about this subject from media, from folks. I mean, some of us has read books on the subject, but we're for Black Americans. So we are removed in that sense from that. But as Americans...
Oh, I thought, okay, I heard that differently. Like we represent Black Americans, like we are FOR, not FOU.
Oh no, we are. It's four of us.
Yeah, okay, I got you. Okay.
Black math, right?
Yeah,
Black math. It's four of us. We're Black because to me that's an important context, right? Yeah. That I think like this issue is there's
also another layer to that context,
especially with Farouk's identity.
Yeah.
Say that,
but you're a citizen of the United States. You're a United States citizen.
Yeah,
you were born. Okay, so we're for Black America. Like, and your like lived experience has been one of a Black American.
Yes. I think again, there's nuance.
100%. But I'm saying that to say, like, I think when we approach this subject, one, it's like no comment is going to be, it's like it's not going to be good enough for anybody at any time. I mean, it's so many nuances, but I think we had to put it in context to say, although I've been to, I was in Israel and Palestine for a week. I was there for a week, an artist. I could tell you about what I saw in that week, but we're not scholars of this issue. But I think that by watching our conversation, you could kind of get an idea of how this conversation is being talked about in the spaces that we're in, right? We're in activist spaces, we're in conscious spaces. Myself and Farouk identify as Muslim, right? So, like, I think that's an important context, right? I also think that, again, kind of back to the human conversation, is that, we're seeing, we saw Palestinian children lose their lives. We saw Israeli children lose their lives, right? So, like, that child, it wasn't like that child didn't necessarily choose to be there or choose a particular ideology, right? But those children are gone now. And that is a horrible, horrible thing that we're seeing. I also think talking about us being Black Americans is we're inside of a country that has a horrible, horrible history when it comes to foreign policy. You could argue that America has the worst history when it comes to like foreign policy issues, right? America has devastated, in our lifetime, right, has devastated foreign countries. And a lot of although we're in America, we're against that, right? So if somebody, and I put it in the context to say, like, if somebody came here and harmed like somebody that was my family member or somebody that I love, I would be upset. Would they have a legitimate issue to be upset with America? Yeah, but it's like I didn't vote for those people. I didn't make those decisions. Those decisions were made on my behalf. In fact, we might have gone up and protested those decisions. But still, somebody chose. So I just wanted to separate that, because I think we can say, like, we condemn innocent people being killed and then have a nuanced conversation about decisions that the Israeli government's making, decisions that groups like Hamas is making, decisions that the Palestinian Authority are making on behalf of people that may not be down with them, may be in agreement with them. We don't know, right? We don't know. And so I think that you can do two things, but I think like what conflates it is, if you lost somebody over this weekend in Israel or Palestine, you're hurt to the point where you want that support. You feel like I want support. I want somebody to back me. I want somebody to stand with me. I want somebody to grieve with me. You know what I'm saying? On either side, right? And I think that we can say, as conscious people, that we disagree with the loss of innocent human life, period. Right? And I think that we can then have a broader conversation about, the history of what's happening over there, which is about how it seemed as like the Israeli government has been ratcheting it up the oppression of the Palestinian community. I think we can have another conversation. I mean, you had a statement made by the Israeli defense minister, basically not only saying that there wouldn't be any food and water. He said, "I've ordered a complete siege." This is the defense minister of the Israeli government. A complete siege on the Gaza Strip. There will be no electricity, no fuel, no food. Everything is closed. We are fighting human animals, and we act accordingly. And again, so there is another. So that's another conversation of, oh, you're not even seeing the humanity of, because everybody that is in Gaza right now, according to what I heard, it's 1 million children. It's too many people in there. 1 million of those are children. Mm-hmm. So you're talking about 1 million children that won't have access to food, that already were in what people describe as an open air prison, that won't have food, fuel, and basically now you're seeing them, or you're viewing them as human animals. And so I think that I just wanted to put that out there as a context, right? That when I went to Israel and Palestine, I was in community with Israelis and Palestinians and African refugees that were looking for a peaceful, equitable solution to what was happening. I was in community with Israelis that refused to go into military service and went to prison because they did not agree with what the government is doing. So there are Israelis that don't agree with what the government is doing, and there's Palestinians that don't agree with the decisions some of these groups are making, right? That aren't in total agreement. When I was there, the Palestinians that I interact with were very critical of the Palestinian Authority and the decisions that they were making on behalf of Palestinians. Now, I went in 2014. It's a much different time, but I just wanted to put that in context. And so I just wanted to first say, like, when it comes to like the human loss of life, like, just like, what did you all think? What were your reactions or responses? And then I want to get into this broader conversation of where we are. And again, like, as 4 Black people here, with the privilege to come into a place and sit and talk, what we think about, not only what we think about it, but what we think could be possible. It's not that anybody gonna listen to us, but if they would, what do we think a possible solutions could be? Did anybody want to start? I'm gonna start with Trouble.
Yeah. So what's interesting is sometimes I have dreams that can transport me into completely different human experiences.
Astral projection.
Almost.
Okay.
Almost. So essentially, the day after the news struck about the war over in Palestine and Israel, I had a dream where I'm riding through Oakland trying to get home.
Oakland and Pittsburgh.
Yes,
okay.
Oakland and Pittsburgh.
Gotcha. It's
trying
Oakland,
to get
a neighborhood
home.
in Pittsburgh, for those that don't know.
And all of a sudden, there are people, like random people with guns, just shooting people at random.
Right.
I couldn't tell who they were targeting.
Right.
I couldn't tell what their motive was.
Right.
I just knew that innocent people were dying in the streets right in front of me in this dream, and it felt so real. And I feel like that dream essentially was like helping me to empathize with the humans that are over there who aren't part of this, state war that's going on.
Didn't make the decisions that are affecting folks right now. Correct. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then it made me think, like, when I woke up, I was like, this is a reality. Like, I was thankful to have woken up from that dream.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There are people over there who aren't waking up from a dream.
Right.
They're living this every day. This is their reality now.
Absolutely.
They don't know if they're going to die. They don't know if they're going to be the next target.
Right.
They're literally watching people die on a daily basis. And it's like the fear that I felt in that dream was unlike anything I've ever felt in life. You know what I'm saying?
No, and that's just, it's like, that's that privilege that we have to like be able to come to work and not have to think about those things, right? The possibility of a bombing happening or, somebody popping up, and that is, although, we as Black people, we live in neighborhoods that deal with community violence. So we've dealt with community violence in a different way, right?
Yeah.
But even, I mean, you could argue that the community violence that we deal with is oftentimes based on decisions people in power make to put folks into a condition where they feel like this is the only thing that they can do or need to do, or how else can they get out of this situation. So thank you for sharing that, because that's a very private, personal thing.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that empathy that you shared. Farouk?
What do you want me to say?
I mean, it's up to you. I mean, I don't want to put any words in your mouth.
I'm gonna start this by reading something from James Baldwin.
Okay.
All right.
Now, mind you, we're talking about the human part of it.
I know.
Okay, got you.
Well, I'll save that then.
I would say that too.
Yeah. So no, I think the human aspect of it. It says in the Quran, there's to kill one person is to kill all of humanity.
Absolutely.
And to save one person is to save all of humanity.
Yes.
Anytime that you see, senseless murder, like war always has casualties.
Yeah.
War always has innocent lives taken.
Yeah.
And I think that was, for a lot of Americans, something that has never really been something that they can rationalize. They don't look at them as human beings. They look at these people as just numbers on a death toll. And I think that a lot of this was ushered in by the war on terror, where you start to dehumanize these people losing lives, and you don't view them as people anymore. It's just, okay, we have, like Cat Williams famously said, the media did a great job of taking away the humanity and putting the word insurgent there.
True.
That's something that most Black people that watch the news is like, well, we couldn't recognize the word insurgent. I don't know if an insurgent is walking down the street.
True.
Right? So that was that propaganda. And this becomes so layered.
Correct.
And when you go back to the initial question of, like, what is our response to the loss of innocent human lives on both sides of this conflict? And it's important.
Absolutely.
You don't want to see children blown up. No one wants to see any of that. However, this is what we're into. And this is where, unfortunately, we're now commentating on, is something that moves into this conversation of states.
Correct.
And go ahead. No, go ahead, Miracle.
I'm ready for the states conversation because I don't think it's two separate conversations.
I don't either.
I think it's one. So I will reserve my comments
I think, but how,
to the second.
Well, let me ask you that, because if you're, again, like, so are we individually, like, here we are.
Yes,
hold on. Wait. I didn't finish my question. If me, you, Trouble, Farouk, right? We're here in America, and a lot of our work and shows have been critical about the decisions that the American government is making against other communities, whatever. And so, like, if somebody then said or came here and harmed your family, your personal family, do you then say that's like I mean, how, like, would you want people to grieve for you and support you and hold you close because your family died, or would you say that person was justified in what they did because of what my government did?
They're not in conflict with each other, in my opinion.
So, okay,
in my opinion,
yes,
if someone comes over here and harms my family, yes, you can feel bad for me, but you cannot separate it for the reason justification. It's like when we do anti-violence work, people will always have a reason for whatever action that they have. It's whether we internally say these are justified personally. But I believe the reason we have so much strife and conflict is because we are people who are in nation states who have a privilege of having a passport and of being a citizen of X, Y, whatever country it is. And with that, there is a benefit and a burden. And in times of war, we try to sit there and separate the two, but we are representatives of our states. When our states go and do things, they say it's because of us.
Correct.
And so we can't divorce the two.
So, but again, like, now I could say, or you could also say, like, we didn't necessarily ask to be here.
But we're here though.
Right. We were kidnapped, we're brought here, and we're here. So then if you're here and you don't have like the economic situation or reality to leave, right? Again, and I'm just asking, right? Like, because I think that's
anywhere, because you're going to be a gentrifier wherever you go.
100%. Right. So then how? I find it hard to accept. Like, again, like as somebody, it's like, so I'm one person. I'm an American, right? And I've spent most of my like public life critiquing, you know, whether it was Bush, Obama, Trump, who was in the middle of that? Was somebody in the middle? Oh no, Obama to Trump. Like to Biden, like critical of specifically how foreign policy was used. And so, but I would feel a certain type of way. I would feel like if somebody came and attacked my family, I would feel like my family, you know, is like, we didn't have anything to do. We didn't, you know, like we didn't vote for that dude. Like what? Like we don't have anything to do. And oftentimes we might not even know.
But that's also a two-sided coin.
Because I'm just saying, because I mean, we might, you know, the CIA might be doing. We don't even know like what violence that this government is doing. So then, should I personally be held responsible for that simply because I'm an American citizen?
You're saying yes. That's the impact of white supremacy. I think we have to understand white supremacy messed our countries up, messed our world up, messed our globe up. So we will ever have the burden of taking on the responsibilities that our nation states do on our behalf.
But it ain't on my behalf.
But if indigenous people
I would argue that it's not on how's it? It's on my behalf.
I just want to say, if indigenous people say Black Americans, you're settler colonials,
yes,
we are settler colonials because we're on their land. And as much as we say we were brought here,
we didn't move here to be on it. Exactly, we were.
Go here. And then if we go back, we're going to be settler colonials on somebody else's land.
Okay, yes.
And that is the reason why I advocate for no walls, no borders, and that's why I advocate for no ownership of land, because I think that in order to have a border, you have to have death. In order to have a border, you have to have an army that reinforces that border, that takes somebody's life. And if you're not taking somebody's life, you're saying somebody's life is not worthy enough to cross into our borders. That is my anti-war, anti-border stance. And I think that just by default being born American, you will always have the burden to be responsible for what America's foreign policies are, whether it's what happened in Iraq, Afghanistan, Vietnam. No matter what happens, you can be the best pacifist there is. Just because you're here and you're getting benefits and privileges from being here, you have the responsibility. So I think more people have to advocate and push for our governments, not just to stop war, but to be anti-war, to do reparation, to go back and heal harm. And until we get to that point where people are not only protected, but are reimbursed for their pain and suffering, and have the best reunification plans for their families, like we still haven't even found a way to reunify the youth who came over here, the youth we stole from Korea, the youth we stole from Vietnam. So I think that if one of those individuals decided to do something, it would be justified and in their right because of the horror and atrocities that Americans have inflicted upon other people. Does that mean that innocents deserve to take on the responsibility? No. But that is the reality of the world that we have created when you have a foreign policy whose default is to go to war and violence and not health, community, and safety.
Okay, I'm going to come back to that. I'm going to take myself out of that but again, I want to come to
like we said, we're not Americans, but we.
No,
are.
I didn't say I wasn't an American.
I'm saying like that's an American soldier, but like our taxes are funding this.
Correct.
The people we elect, no matter how progressive, are voting for this. So we are all collectively tied to the outcomes.
I agree with that. I want to, because you had a point to make, Trouble.
Yeah.
And then I want to come back around to that. And I don't know if you want to hop in, Fruit.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I completely agree with Miracle.
Okay.
Because in regards to the question that you asked about, like, if someone were to come over here and kill my family because of something that America did in their country, of course I'd be upset. Of course I'd be mad.
Yes.
But once the dust settles of my grief and anger, I realize that the real op is the American 100%, government.
Yes.
And if it wasn't for the bullshit they were doing in other countries, this person wouldn't have felt justified to come over here and do what he did. They did.
I agree with that 1,000%. And so my point is, because I agree with that, and like that point, and I agree with your no borders point, is that there has to be that dust settling, right? There has to be at first a acknowledgement that you lost people that you love. That right, it has to be first that acknowledgement. Then, after that acknowledgement, after you put your people into the ground, right? Then we can have a conversation about that we've been having, right? I mean, work that we've collectively been doing about these systems and how do we build and break down these systems. I mean, we're talking about building liberated communities. That's an antithesis of what we're seeing in the United States of America. So like, that's the piece that I was saying, like, that I would be like, well, man, like, because I mean, you know, I'm wearing Malcolm X jacket, right? Somebody who was like very as a Black American, but very public of his critique. A lot of people believe this is why Malcolm was assassinated, because he began to connect the struggle of Black Americans to the worldwide struggle for liberation. And that when he did that, he became a threat to these borders that Miracle talked about, right? So I just want to say, like, how do we hold space? Like, or is there, like according to Miracle, like, there's no, like, you're an American, it is what it is. And I'm grappling with that. You know what I'm saying? I'm grappling with that. And I have further, I want to bring you, Farouk, in, because I just feel the energy. I feel like a real energy. Again, like, I think, like, I would say, Miracle, I think, like, and then I'll bring you in if you don't mind. I think, like, your logic is 1,000% correct, right? But I think, like, we're so, like, we're so far removed, because, like, your logic of a borderless world and your rationale of when there's a border, you have to be able to defend that. It's like your house. You got an alarm system, you got a gun. Once you got a place and you close and lock the door, there's this will of defending that. And ultimately, like, you know, if we all, and this is, you know, not to get into the economic systems, but if any like community, so in street code, right? If you operating in a street code, everybody got to eat. Because if you doing all the eating and the rest of the people are starving,
you become a target.
Right. It reminds me, if there's a movie Paid in Full, the actor that played Uncle Ice, if you ever seen the movie Paid in Full, he just passed, may he rest in peace, a wonderful act. So, you know, Uncle Ice felt like, yo, Mitch is shining. He getting money. He wanted some. So he kidnapped his brother, his younger brother, right? And this is based on a true story, some shit that really happened. You know what I'm saying? So until we get to a place where we all have safety, security, resources, the ability to eat, like you said, like, we're open to the possibility of violence being on the table for somebody. So, like, I agree with you. I just wonder, like, in the moment, because we're so far removed from that scenario, like how. Because if we're, I mean, how can I find it hard to fathom being held responsible for something that I might not even, like, decisions that I don't even know is happening just because I live here.
And I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair. We have to step outside of our privilege and realize that, like, when you come to America, just like when you go over to Palestine, you can't tell who's who.
1,000%.
So it's like, you can't tell who's for the bullshit. Right. You can't tell who's against it. Some people. So am I wrong for, like, maybe wanting you to come and maybe do some research? Maybe Google one hood. Here's the thing. And maybe, like, identify all of us. You also have to understand that, like, in the state that they're in, not everyone is going to have the emotional space and intelligence to make that separation. Again, I agree with you. Like your, you know, trouble is the love.
When you spin the block, right? When you spin the block, anybody can get it. 100%. And I think that we have to understand that.
But to me, that's not, you know, I'm from the era of your beef is with him, right?
You gonna shoot up the whole barbershop, and it's a 6-year-old child in there that gets shot. To me, that's bullshit. You got an issue with my man. You go see the person you got an issue with. Why do we all have to suffer because you didn't want to get out and target the person that you have an issue with? I don't think that's fair. I think that's bullshit. And I think I understand that. But if you got the money and the resource to get all these weapons, then you should do your research and you should know. Like, target the people that are the ones that are doing you direct harm. And I'll share this with you, and I'll close, and I'll come back to you, Miracle, and then Farouk, maybe. You know, we talked about this in this show.
I think we have to move to the
Miracle.
state conversation.
Okay. So we're there. I think we're there, but Miracle, like, again, so here are 9 black people that are just praying in a church, and Dylan Roof goes in and kills. Like, nah, man, I'm not on that. Oh, where they are a part of America. I'm not on that. That was unjustified to me. You see what I'm saying? And so I think that, to me, it's like, if I'm not harming you, I didn't do anything. I just happen to live here, and I'm here, not acknowledging my privilege, acknowledging like this is land that I didn't, you know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't ask to be here, but this is land that acknowledging like whose land this is. Like, I'm with all of that. But if I'm actively trying to make the world a better place, like, damn, like, do I get...
Well, let's get into it, because first of all, Dylan Roof didn't kill 9 occupiers.
No.
Dylan Roof didn't kill 9 people.
In his mind, they were occupiers because they was black people, and he was a white supremacist. These black people ain't supposed to be here. I'm trying to start a race war. So in his mind, they were occupiers.
No, I'm going to push back on that. But here, in what happened this weekend was Hamas creating a terror attack.
Yes.
After 4 Palestinians were murdered by settler colonials, including a 16-year-old.
Yes,
there was no outrage. Hold on, there was no pushback, because from the War on Terror, we have this idea that when Muslims are killed, it's just normal,
1,000%,
run-of-the-mill, everyday business. We have been taught by our state and our governments to devalue and dehumanize Muslim lives.
1,000%.
So when this first attack happened, I liken it to the Wilkinsburg massacre. When that happened here, and Wendy Bell was like, "That's just black people being black people."
Yes.
When the massacre happened, at first it was, this is just...
When you're saying the massacre, what specifically are you talking about?
When the massacre happened over the weekend, it was, this is what Hamas does. This is what these Muslims do.
Correct.
This is what these savages do.
Yes.
But the truth of the matter is, Hamas would not be there if it weren't for our state government.
Correct.
Hamas would not feel that they have the right and the moral duty and obligation to kill innocent civilians if it wasn't for our state government. And I don't think we can divorce the two. So, because our government has allowed the siege on Gaza to occur, our government has denied the UN the right to investigate Israel and Israel's war crimes. Right. Our government has prevented the International Criminal Courts from doing investigations and prosecutions for international war crimes committed by the Israeli government, and has even stopped Egypt and other people from even going in and settling the region accordingly. Our government has this idea that they need to promote and support Israel as the only democracy in the world, in the Middle East, for their own personal, political, financial reasons.
Correct.
And because of that, they have prevented peace and harmony within the region. And because of we do not have those conditions of liberation within the area, that is why we keep seeing all this war and famine. I believe that all of this is unnecessary.
1,000%.
I always said that all of this violence is unnecessary.
Yes.
I believe we can live in a world without violence, a war without war, but our elected officials have this idea that we have this manifest destiny to go in and colonize the world,
1,000%,
either by might or by right.
That's white supremacy.
That is a part of the white supremacy.
Absolutely.
And so for me, when I look at what happened over this weekend, and I look at what's been happening to the Palestinian people, when my calls for justice cry out for the Palestinian people, it's not because I dismiss Jewish lives or Israeli lives.
Of course.
It's because I understand that our government have a motivation to harm, kill, and commit genocide against Muslim Palestinians because they don't value their lives,
or to like turn a blind eye to that suffering,
and not only that, they use the propaganda and democracy and faith and religion, and I don't think it is necessary. This happened because of white supremacy. Israel was created because of the racism and anti-Semitism in Europe. This is all white. Nigeria just celebrated what is like its 50th year. That was created from white supremacy. All of these countries that were created in the past 100 years
broke it down.
were these fake borders that were created from white supremacy from the war. And I think that we're going to keep repeating these cycles because we never take a moment to say, you know what? We don't have to live this way, and let's stop and figure out a solution for peace. We're looking at who's going to be on my side. Like, this is not a football game.
Yes.
You shouldn't be Team Israel, Team Palestine, Team God. You should be like Team Freedom and Team Humanity.
Yes.
But we look at war like it's a chess game. We look at people like they are pawns in a political game. And in my opinion, I think our president should fight each other. If you want to go and invade someplace, I think
we would lose at this point.
I think our elected officials should go and fight each other, and that's how we determine war. I don't think we should have phosphorus. I don't think we should be bombing. I don't think we should have snipers.
Absolutely.
I think if they want to fight each other, let them fight. Let people live their daily lives. But what we're happening is we're seeing a lot of Americans go over to Palestine and kill people and harm people because they have this idea that this American. A lot of those settlers are American. They're not even Israeli people.
I didn't know that.
Those are Americans.
I did not know that.
Who've come over there, and it's just like we're just creating war and violence just because we think we're like better than everyone else. And war, it always comes back.
So let me.
This is my last thing I want to say. Like, no matter what we do overseas, it's always going to come back here. Whether it's a September 11th,
absolutely,
whether it is the global South trying to come and create their own financial currency, what we do is always going to come back and hit us home. And I think that it's better for us to advocate and mobilize around peace and unity while we have the privilege of having safety before we're all just in a war zone.
I 1,000% agree with you. I do want to bring you in, Farouk. If you it's up to you. If you want to share, I did. I guess my only pushback to that, what you said, because I think that's what we're doing. I mean, I think as One Hood, we've been advocating for freedom, peace, and humanity. That's what we're doing. And you're 1,000% right, where it's like, you these moments happen and people want you to pick a side. And it's like, we're on the side of humanity. We're on the side of freedom. We're on the side of liberation. And if we were all on that side, it would be better, right? We're not trying to be on like this side or the other side. I guess I would want, and I don't know, right? You said, because of course I didn't hear about the 4 Palestinians that were killed or the countless Palestinians. I had sent a article into the chat that was from the New York Times. That was a graph about the Palestinian people that were killed and the Israelis, and the difference in the height of the graph was very stark in terms of the number of Palestinian people that were killed that we don't hear about, that we don't mourn. I guess I would feel like, well, who was, and I don't know if we knew who killed these 4 Palestinian people, who was responsible, and I would be like, can you go to them, you know what I'm saying, and go to those folks, because if you end up harming somebody or killing somebody that maybe was advocating or organizing on your side, like you're even hurting your cause in the long run. So that's all I was asking for,
targeted.
Yeah, like identify the people that, kind of like what you said about the presidents, right? Who are the individuals, making these decisions? And again, like I said, a lot of times, it's not like we have some, just like you said, we can choose, right? But even who we choose as the president of leaders becomes so small because you have to have so much money, you know what I'm saying, to even run for office. And so, I mean, it's so crazy. So even that pull is a lot, but a lot of times these decisions are made in the dark, and they're not made in, our opinion or the best opinion. The Jewish newspaper Haaretz put this on Netanyahu and his decision making in terms of like why we find ourselves in war. But of course, if a warmonger is running your country, and we know because we've had warmongers running our country, and like you said, and then we've experienced innocent people targeted, even though you can determine what innocent might mean to you, but people targeted in attacks, right, here in the United States. And so I guess I want to come to you, Farouk, and I didn't realize we were talking for 40 minutes. Doesn't seem that long. I think this is a rich conversation. So I do want to bring you in, Farouk. And then I guess what is our solution, or are there solutions, or what can we do just as Black Americans here in the United States? I'll before I come to you, Farouk, I saw this meme where it was like a meme of like two people fighting and a person walking by, and it was like Israel and Palestine was fighting, and the person walking by, it was like Black Americans. They was like, this y'all fight, like, you know what I'm saying? So with the understanding that for some Black people, we're like, yo, we paying bills. And I'm saying this to say, like, unfortunately, our YouTube audience is almost all white men, according to our metrics. So I guess that's what we're talking about. But, you mentioned your identity. You know what I'm saying? You're Black and Lebanese. And so you have a particular context. So just, I guess, talk about your feelings, what you see, and where do you think we should go right now, just as a community?
It's tough because, like, every Ramadan, the Gaza Strip, Palestine is bombed. Yeah,
absolutely.
For Eid, it's bombed.
Yeah, right. We saw, not to cut you off, but we saw a video.
Right.
Was it this Ramadan where soldiers were inside of the mosque?
Inside the masjid, handcuffing people, beating them, brutalizing, detonating weapons, and, blowing up the masjids, right?
Right, yes.
So that happens every year.
Yes.
This is a difficult thing for me because I've never been someone who is like confused about my identity.
Correct.
Right.
I mean, your name is Farouk Al Saeed.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, you have a name that makes it difficult to even travel on a plane simply because of the name that you were given at your birth.
Right. And like for me, my mom raised me with the Arabic language. That's it. I was raised as a Black American.
Yes.
You know what I mean? What I will say is, it's difficult because there are times that I wanted to reconnect with my Arab side. I can't because they were all killed in airstrikes.
Yeah.
I don't have that connection to family members that would have been able to give me some element of what it's like on that side of because they were all killed in airstrikes sanctioned by Israel.
Yeah, man, I'll be pleased with them. Absolutely.
And so that's a difficult conversation for me. And also, I know what it's like to be in a holding cell because of my name.
Right.
I know what it's like to be in an immigration facility. I know what that feels like, and I know what it feels like to have your humanity stripped away, even though mine was only gone for 3 days.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that in federal custody. Like, in state custody, whatever, that's a different conversation, but they were for the same crime.
Yes.
I was arrested for attempted murder, but placed in an immigration facility because this is after the war on terror.
Yeah.
And I was not treated as a human being or American or Canadian citizen.
Yeah.
I was treated as a prisoner of war on American soil.
I can believe it.
So that's a difficult conversation for me. So when I see this, it's like I look at this as the lens as also as a Black American because I had Arab family that told me I wasn't Arab. So I'm like, okay, well, you niggas fight it out then.
Right.
Kind of like that meme. It's difficult for me because this does become like a crisis of conscience at times because, like, as a Muslim, I want to advocate and I want to speak out and I want to be, very anti-Zionist government. You know what I mean? And the creation of Israel wasn't something that was made for Jewish people. The creation of Israel was to protect the interests of the West. And it was created as something that wasn't a safe hold for Jewish people. It was to perpetuate white supremacy. And that's what it still does today. And Benjamin Netanyahu, and prior to him, Ariel Sharon, have done a fantastic job at relegating these Palestinians and other Muslim people to subhuman and eradicating them by the dictation of this graft, thousands of people a year from 2008. And with a spike of 31,000 people that were killed in 2018 against 130 Israelis. I'm not saying one life is more valuable than the other, but when you're looking at the level of mass extermination, that if this were in any other country, as Miracle said, the U.S. would have been involved in this.
And you're right. It's like you're not saying it, but like the world, it's like obviously we're not seeing the world step in.
No.
And we haven't seen the world step in.
It's just wanton violence and it's unchecked.
And I think, and thank you, Jasmine, for sending us, the New York Times posted something that said the human cost of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict from 2008 to 2020, and the number of Palestinian lives in comparison to just like you said, every loss of life is meaningful.
Yeah.
But when in 2018 it says 31,000 Palestinians lost their lives in this conflict in 2018, and I don't remember.
Right.
I don't remember it being a huge topic.
Not at all.
I don't remember.
It's not even talking.
I don't remember humanitarian aid. I don't remember USA for Palestine type song, none of that.
And here's the thing about that. Like, my mom was an asylum seeker.
Yes.
Right? That, if you rewind to Trump's Muslim ban,
yeah.
If I were to be born today, my mom wouldn't have been allowed in the country.
That's true.
Right? And that's a context, I think, and there's a lot of people that share my specific background. I'm not unique in the fact that I'm the only black Arab person around, only half Arab person. There's millions of people like me across the world, specifically in the States. But what makes it interesting for me is that I identify as a black person. My father is a black North American man, or he's from slavery. My father's family is from slavery. There are a lot of those people, a lot of black Arabs in the Middle East that have the same exact struggle as I do. As you indicated when you went to Palestine, you see black people that are subjugated by a government or and falling victim to state-sponsored violence that are even further subjugated than the Arab-presenting Palestinians and Israelis. That's where my view is right there with those people, with the people that are black Arabs that are now even further subjugated, that are even talked about even less because no one views Africanism or blackness in Arabia, in the so-called Middle East, as something that deserves to be advocated for. And these are the people that are suffering the most. These people that are coming there to Israel or Palestine or Jerusalem as asylum seekers themselves.
True.
Ethiopians, Eritreans, Somalians, these people, Sudanese, these people that speak Arabic, that are Muslim, that are and even in the case of Ethiopians, Jewish people that are still subjugated because they're dark people.
If I can hop in and again, and we could we can keep talking. I think it's such a rich conversation because you just add another. When I was over there, I think I experienced anti-blackness from Israelis and Palestinians.
They're darker than you.
And what was fascinating, one of the things that was literally, a mind fuck to me was when we saw the African refugees, the Eritreans, the Somalians, that if they were granted asylum, would have more rights.
Right.
Than Palestinians.
And
so it was this weird, so it was just again, I think it goes back to your point, Miracle, about getting to a place where can't we just live? You know what I'm saying? And
I thought you were about to say, can't we all just get along?
But similar, right? Can't we just live peacefully and but it's so much happening. So I want to say, thank you for sharing your personal story. Because I think it's important with that context. I think you've shared a personal story. You've shared a personal story, Miracle. And you've really, to me, Miracle, you've laid out where we want to go.
Right.
Right. You laid it out brilliantly, although I still want my, you see, I'm over here. I'm working on behalf of the global majority. But I understand where you're coming from.
I think that's an honest viewpoint, though.
Yes. So what I want to ask you, Miracle, because I think you gave us the place where we want to go. Like what steps should we be taking now, and what steps can we, as again, and like a lot. I mean, we're still dealing with the fact that, when we go to the Black community in Pittsburgh, this ain't even in the top 10 of shit that people are concerned with, right? That most people is like, how do I pay my bills? How do I get food? We're in one of the poorest cities in the country. We're in the cities that are worst places for Black American to live. So when it comes to like the work we do and the people we interact with on an everyday basis, they might not even be watching or listening to what's happening here, although it's affecting it. So what should we be doing right now? And how do we get to this borderless, peaceful society that we should be? That's what it was in the beginning, and hopefully we should be there and wanting to get there.
What I will say was, when I went to Ferguson and we were assaulted by police and tear gassed, a lot of us were looking online, and it was Palestinian people who were telling us how to deal with the tear gas, how to
exchange, that powerful
garlic in your scalp,
how to run and hide, where they were going to, what all of the different things were going to be, what they were going to say. And that is how, particularly me myself, got involved in the Palestinian struggle for liberation.
Right.
But what I will say is, if you care about police brutality, our police go over there, train.
Right.
And so when we were tear gassed here in Pittsburgh, when people were shot in the eyes here, that is a tactic that they were trained, and that tactic was refined by practicing on the Palestinian people.
Right.
I forgot, Farouk and I did a conversation, even here in Pennsylvania.
2 years ago today.
Here in Pennsylvania.
Right, they manufacture like tear gas.
They manufacture
here in
tear
Pennsylvania,
gas.
yes.
And it is a company, and their whole purpose is to do it to destroy the Palestinian people.
Right.
So our oppressions are linked. I believe we have to understand that we all have a right to live, and we all have a right to self-determination. So the first thing is not even forgiveness. It's just that we have to want to see our family and friends live more than we want to see our enemies suffer.
Right.
And that is the same thing we tell people when we're trying to get them not to shoot locally. Yeah. It's like the same violence intervention that we have here locally is the same thing that we need globally. Right now, people just want vengeance. You hurt my dad. I'm talking your uncle, your friend, your cousin, your dog. That's where everybody is.
It's vengeance. I agree.
You have to have people in positions of power who have to want to take a step back and like, we need a cooling off period. We need a ceasefire. We need true mediation. It's not one-sided. For me to win, you have to give up something. For you to see that I win, I have to give up something. That's true mediation.
True.
That's where we have to get to. But right now, we're not there. And unfortunately, I feel like we're going to have to be exhausted by death and bloodshed. That war is going to have to come to our own territory before we're like, you know what? We got to stop. We don't have enough bombs to kill everybody. We don't. We think
probably
we do.
We might have that.
You know, in my opinion, we really don't, right?
Yeah.
And we have to start thinking about what does life look like without war.
True.
When I have conversations with my friend, whether it's my friends in Tigray or people, we talk about what does 5 years look like? What is having being neighbors with the people who harmed us look like? What is it like doing co-farming and cooperatives and bringing people together?
Yes.
Like, do we need to have everybody who hates each other on the outskirts of town?
Right.
People who get along and sit in the middle? And then people who are like, do they go into the suburbs? We have these conversations. And I think we have to start having those conversations because if we're failing at war and violence globally, eventually we're going to fail at it locally.
Yeah.
And one thing I'd like to add as context for what Miracle was saying is like, what Miracle was mentioning is like true love energy.
Yeah.
And one thing I could say about the statistics in the U.S. and how like the number one leading cause of death is heart disease is that a lot of us fail when it comes to love energy.
Wow.
Because we were never taught how to truly love on one another.
We need a love vaccine, brother.
You know what I'm saying? We weren't taught how to love ourselves.
True.
So it's like what Miracle was talking about is like this concept of like compassion, right?
Right.
When you look at the people who hurt us, seeing them from a compassionate lens and realizing like they're hurting us because they're hurt themselves.
True, but I think like with, if you're a child in Gaza who doesn't have access to the proper food or medicine, and now, like it's hard to look at the people that you feel like are oppressing you in that way, and also to understand that like, even you like saying like Israelis and Palestinians as if they're like monoliths oftentimes conflates things. And I say that to say like growing up in Chicago, almost 90% of the corner stores in black neighborhoods were owned by Palestinian people. They wasn't supporting black struggle and consciousness and none of that. But that doesn't mean because I had a negative experience, or you might have had a negative experience with somebody that I then don't see like suffering and not want to advocate for somebody that is in an oppressive situation. And so just because it's not monolithic, right? There are Palestinians that are preventing other Palestinians from getting the justice and freedom they deserve. Yeah. And same with Israelis, and there are Israelis helping. There are Palestinians helping, that are the freedom struggle, just like those that saw what was happening in Ferguson and reached out to us in that situation. I remember that vividly. And like you said, so I think it does begin with this, like, and then I did want to mention this because what is crazy about also in the midst of this is we're seeing disinformation on social media.
This is crazy.
At such a high level. Yeah. Well, what happens is, and what's happened particularly to Twitter, the app formerly known as Twitter, is now you get money based on the amount of views a particular tweet has. And so what people are doing is they're taking these tweets of extreme violence and they're putting it on Twitter and saying this is happening in Israel. Right. And it's not. It's old, I just was watching one and they were saying this happened in Thailand, but they're getting paid, like
it's counterintelligence,
right? But also it's people that want to get paid,
absolutely,
and they know that if
they're using great as a weapon of counterintelligence.
1,000%. Yes, 1,000%. And so again, right, this is a white supremacist colonizer that has turned the app that people would go to get the real information. Why? Because people were verified. You knew it came from a verified source. Yeah. You knew what the information. Now everybody you can just buy a blue check. It's so different. And so I just say that to say, like, be careful what you retweet, what you're reading, fact check the date on it, make sure that it is recent if you want to share it, and don't get caught up in sharing that. And then I think, like, we're in Pittsburgh. You know what I'm saying? Because of what happened in the Tree of Life in 2018, the Tree of Life, was a synagogue that was targeted because of their work in the refugee community. Right. Wanting to be a good neighbor, and they were targeted by white supremacist violence. We started to do a lot of Black Jewish solidarity work. We had a very dope, and I haven't reached out to him yet, but we had a really dope kind of conversation around the history of anti-Semitism with Noah from the Holocaust Center in Pittsburgh. That was very nuanced. We asked this brother 1,000 questions, and he was really sincere in his approach. We want to have this conversation further. We want to bring on folks that have been, the work that we do. We like to hear from people that are the most impacted, right? Mm-hmm. What's happening right now, we are not the most impacted, although you spoke to your family's impact, Farouk, very vividly, and we got to recognize that and hold space for that. You know what I'm saying? Those real feelings, you know what I'm saying? So I appreciate you sharing that. And we want to bring on, you know, our members of the Palestinian community. I don't want to say the brother's name, but we mentioned a friend of ours that, because we didn't ask him yet if he wanted to be on the show.
I would also like to highlight the fact that, you know, as you mentioned, like Tree of Life happening in Pittsburgh, like Pittsburgh is home, and Pittsburgh has always been a traditionally important city when it comes to Islam in North America.
1,000, particularly black Muslims.
I was just about to say that. Most of the Muslims in Pittsburgh are black or African American, right? Our black Muslim population is quite extensive in Pittsburgh, whether they identify as NOI or Orthodox or Salafi, whatever.
Or the Moore Science Temple.
Or the Moore Science Temple, right? Followers of Noble Drew Ali.
One of the first mosques, black mosques, was from the Moore Science Temple.
Yes, and the first masjid in North America was in Pittsburgh.
Wow, amazing.
Number 2 was in Cleveland. But, like, that is another conversation right there about the importance of blackness being represented in Islam.
Right.
Because in Pittsburgh, for them to have a Tree of Life and still have all of this state-sanctioned violence against black people lends another layer to this nuanced conversation.
Come on, brother.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's still white supremacy.
Yeah, well, we have to possibly, you know, organize against our own possible cop city here in Pittsburgh. So like you said, it's so nuanced, it's so lit. I think we can, and I think we had a really good conversation. I'm gonna let you in, Miracle. I'm gonna let you close.
I don't want to close. I just want to sit there and say that when we're talking about Israel, when we're talking about Palestine, that is not an excuse for Islamophobia or anti-Semitism.
1,000%.
Come on.
I believe we have the right and the duty to criticize governments and government action and state-sponsored and state-sanctioned terror. And I will always do that, whether it's my own government
1,000%.
or a government, you know, abroad. I've never wavered on violence being my issue. As someone who had to go through my own unlearning during the Iraqi war, and someone who thought that was a just war, and to having to learn that it wasn't, and that our government was lying to us, and that was creating havoc and destruction for people in Iraq and Afghanistan, I believe it's my obligation to always call out and push back against state violence. And I will always do that because I think that there's a different way to get liberation. I don't always believe violence is the answer. I think that is a method of revenge.
True.
And until we get past wanting revenge, we won't get peace. This is not something like I just came to. I've had to lose people in a short amount of time for different reasons to understand that vengeance doesn't bring people back. When somebody dies of cancer, there's nobody you can go and shoot.
True.
When somebody dies because they fell asleep at the wheel, there's nobody you can go and shoot back.
Absolutely.
And so because of that, understanding grief and anger and rage, you start to understand that, like, we have to have a cooling off period. And if our elected officials aren't advocating for peace or a cooling off period, they're advocating for vengeance, and that cycle of violence will always continue until we step out of it and create peace and lasting peaceful solution.
That would have been the perfect close, but then she said, "Jesus, that's such a brilliant." I say that to say somebody did, you know, shoot me a text message to say, man, like, you know, there were, you know, threats of violence against the Jewish community here in Pittsburgh. Like you said, I mean, anytime that Hamas or anybody does anything, you're going to see this rise in, you know, Islamophobia or attacks. So you just put that in such a beautiful, brilliant way. And I agree, man, as one, like, we're going to be critical of state sanction. We should be. We should be critical of, because it's just going to beget more violence, right? Like, that violence, like, what do you think, you know, like, oh, we're going to go and just bomb Gaza, like, it's going to beget more violence and more violence. And again, like, we should be advocating for, it's so difficult because we're part of this society now where we feel like we have to respond right away, even before we even find out the whole totality of things. You know, this pressure to be first to the internet with a comment or statement also, to me, is really like, it leads to a lot of confusion. I like to say, like, let's allow folks to bury their loss of loved ones, but we are committed to, we are we have to do this work of finding out other ways than violence, because we've all lost people close to us. We keep seeing it happen, and we realize that it's just going to lead to a worse and worse and worse situation. And so for those people that have, called for peace, and we have to push those like the government that we're in right now, we have to be advocates for a peaceful solution for whatever that is. And so, reach out to your loved ones, man, and hold those folks close. But at One Hood, we're going to continue to advocate for peace and freedom and justice. A liberated community is one that's free of violence, that you can show up and be yourself, that you have access to food, to water, to medicine, to resources. So if their whatever community, if it's not a liberated community, then we're going to speak out for those communities and those folks to be liberated and self-determined. That's a God-given human right, that you should be able to self-determine for yourself. I want it for me, and so I should want it for my fellow human being. In Islam, we're taught what I should want for my brother, what I want for myself. And part of why I do the work that we do and we do the work that we do is because we want those privileges that we have. We want our brothers and sisters all over the world, whatever violent place that they might be in, to have that same privilege, and they're deserving of that. And we're going to push and work towards that. And so with that being said, in order to do that, I think you have to have some type of background in terms of people that have worked and done it. This book is Ella Baker and the Black Freedom Movement, A Radical Democratic Vision by Barbara Ramsey. We have the white pages, and we, kind of joke about some of the things but it's really about grounding ourselves in history and facts in this world where folks are just saying whatever, right? So shout out to Barbara Ramsey. Cornel West said this is the Damn, Cornel West using words I can't. He's a smart dude. What word is this, bro? I can't even read this. Come on, Farouk, you smart. What word is that?
A magisterial rendering. A magisterial rendering of one of the greatest radical Democrats in the 20th century.
Magisterial. Okay, I'm gonna write that down. I'm gonna put that in the new words that I've learned. Speaking of that, it's funny. Somebody commented on one of our posts, and they were like, "Y'all got to stop cutting off magic." And I knew they meant miracle. Magic. But they called you magic.
Black magic.
They called you magic instead of miracle. And so it's something I think about. I think that person is something I think about as Miracle talks. I'm like, let Miracle get, what I mean? So
I just want a force, so we can always just argue.
No, but
we can have our view moment one day.
I think. I mean, well, we kind of got a little argument off today. But I just want to thank you all for showing up. And really, we kind of was like, should we have this conversation? And I felt like to have a show called This Week in White Supremacy, it'd be weak if we said that we're not going to speak on this subject for fear or whatever. I think we can come and be our pure individual selves and say that ultimately we want, a peaceful humanity. And that's why we fight so hard to do the work that we do at One Hood. That being said, final words. You don't want to close, but is something happening in Pittsburgh? Is something going on?
Things are happening in Pittsburgh. You have until October 23rd to register to vote.
Yes.
There are a lot of concerts going on. I believe this will run while Austin is teaching his select.
Oh, yes, it is. Yes, it will.
Put on your calendars for October 26th. 4th.
What's happening on the 24th?
You know what? It's almost like when I talk during the staff meeting.
I see a rainbow. What does that say?
It says the Bard of the Band.
Oh,
so it's a rainbow.
Book. The band book event.
That's October 24th. Put it on your
Bard of the Band.
The Bard of the Band. We're going to be talking about how banning books really impact Black and queer people.
Yes.
Pennsylvania is one of the leading Commonwealth states that ban books. The majority of them are for Black queer people. So we'll have a conversation. Our very first program that our very own Reflective Democracy associate Ethan Rabb will be moderating. So I'm very excited for this. We'll have some great panelists. And then 2 days later, the man, the myth, the legend, the purveyor of peace and forgiveness himself.
Yes.
Councilman elect, right? That was good.
That was beautiful.
Councilman elect Yusuf Salam will be here to talk about his journey of forgiveness and creating a world of peace and liberation.
Absolutely. If anybody, kind of when you talk about like that spirit of revenge, being unjustly accused of the crime Yusef in the Central Park 5, now known as Exonerated 5, were accused of. But seeing him, when I saw the cover of Esquire and seeing him in there and seeing his family in there, it was just so beautiful to see this brother as somebody that have known Yusef and watched him kind of walk in his purpose and find his purpose has been beautiful. So October 26th, don't wait till the last minute, Pittsburgh. Y'all always want to do that, and then if you sold out, then y'all want to show up and stuff for people to sign. Like, just get your ticket now. It's only $10. You know what I'm saying? And because we're gonna have a packed house to see Yusef, but folks be waiting till the last minute. Trouble.
I just want to say, if you find yourself in an emotional space, that is not the time to react. That is not the time for action. That is the time to sit with it and process. And also, if you find someone else in an emotional state, that is not the time to antagonize or try to force words or action out of them. Give them the space. And if you don't have the space to sit with them, just kindly remove yourself. And that is my advice to the world.
Wow, man. One day, when I grow up, I'm going to be like Trouble, man. I'm telling you. Just speaking on that, this is World Mental Health Day. If you want to learn about how Trouble got to this space in his journey, there's a great show he was interviewed on called Brunch with a Black Man, hosted by Miracle Jones. And so Brunch with a Black Man is on our YouTube channel. It's also on our Facebook page. Please share out that for World Mental Health Day. The first Brunch with a Black Man conversation.
Oh, yeah.
From Farouk. Any final words, Farouk? All praises due to Allah, my brother. So with that being said, we will see y'all next week on This Week in White Supremacy. Peace. One hood.